Revolution.radio. Home to ideas, uncensored, hopefully, relatively fresh, a little warmed up maybe, and great conversations in the chat usually, which is pretty cool. Station doesn't actually receive any monies from anyone except for you, dear listener. So, if you can find it within yourself to donate, that would be awesome. Any currency is good, including crypto, gold and silver and diamonds. You can try to send us some gold, some horses if you like. But maybe you can't donate, and that's okay. I dig it, man. I dig it. It's tough out there. It's getting tougher every day. It really is. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it, but the point is maybe you can't. So just tell people about the station. That's good too. Tell people about the station. That's a good thing. Now, today is the 29th of October, 2024. It's almost All Hallows Eve. That's right. Halloween. All Saints Day. November 1st, October 31st. Those are the days, Day of the Dead, etc., etc., etc. It's almost upon us. A couple more days. Should be fun. I'm sure in America, everybody loves it. It's catching on in Australia as well, so that's happening. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, all the time, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on the Grace Tabletop Digital Radio, right? And the archives, of course, are free, which means that you've got another good reason to donate or tell people about the station. I mean, how many times these days do you really get something for free? Well, I'll tell you, never! Never! Before we start broadcasting with you in anger, which we will, you know we will, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast, and for my esteemed colleague Dave.
It's the Duck and Jung.
Thank you, sir. And for me, of course, it's the Direct people, and we would like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Thank you very much. Wow! Huh? Roller coasters. Hey, hoopa, hey, hoopa, hey, hoopa. I don't know if you've been following the latest news. I got to bring it up, Dave. I'm sorry. Then I'll.
That's all right.
You,
I've got a couple too. Mm-hmm.
Good, excellent. Now this is it. Honestly, completely floored me when I first heard it. Completely floored me. Israel may be expelled from the UN. What?
Can I have a guess why? Only have a guess.
Go on.
It's because they banned, what's that UN health service from Gaza?
UNRWA. UNRWA. They call it UNRWA.
Yeah, UNRWA. That's one.
Yes and no. I think that was the last straw.
The last straw.
Mm-hmm. Because I listened to a number of analysts from
completely
different stations and affiliations, and the thing is this: Israel has accused UNRWA has accused members of UNRWA, employees of UNRWA, in participating in the October attacks last year. Unfortunately, though, it seems zero evidence was produced to back that up. So now you can make it illegal for the organization to exist. Of course, that's Israel's right. The problem, though, is they have the infrastructure, the contacts, the warehouses, etc., to distribute and receive aid from Gaza. No one else does. You see? So if you want to deliver aid to Gaza, which clearly Israel has no interest in doing, you need all of UNRWA's infrastructure, right? So, but this is not the first time that the UN has tried to expel someone. Can you guess what the only other nation that was ever not expelled, but was in danger of being expelled?
The USSR?
Wrong.
Oh.
It's a bit of a tricky one. South Africa. South Africa. For its apartheid policies, right? But yeah, that was way back when. I think in the 70s, to be honest with you. I think something like that. But yeah, I mean, you go, what? 1974. Oh, look at me, not being right again. 1974. Yeah, that's just nuts. But yeah, so Israel could now be on the list of being expelled. They did call for others like Yugoslavia, etc., etc. I mean, that happened, right? But as far as I know, and as far as my researchers have told me, no one has ever been expelled. But just imagine, Dave, just for a second, Israel is now a pariah state. It's worse than Iran or North Korea. What? Squeeze me? Baking powder?
Funny.
It is. I mean, what do you say to that? Sorry, you had a couple as well, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I've got one that it kind of hangs on the back of this banning thing. So, Candace Owens.
Yes.
So, conservative US commentator
yes,
Candace Owens. Well, she's been digging up the history, checking the family tree of Kamala Harris. Or Kamala Harris. See, Americans called Carmel. I don't know why. That's someone's name. Carmel is someone's name. And there's no R in Kamala, so that's how I'm saying it. So, what she's been doing is talking to the relatives as far as she can, going back in time, and pointing out the discrepancies. Okay, that's fair. She used to be, on TV. Now she has a wonderful YouTube channel. You should watch it. There's a whole bunch. I don't care if you disagree with it. I watch so much stuff now. I disagree with most of it, funnily enough. But, it's good to get a balanced view on everything that's happening. Now, the Australian government has, well, they've got a long history of doing this, haven't they? Remember Milo? He was banned.
Yes.
David Icke? Banned.
Well, yeah, he
was
wasn't
refused
allowed
a visa. That's all
to
he was.
speak, right?
Yeah, and now Candace Owens is banned. She's been denied a visa.
Interesting.
Now,
the reason was what?
Well, it says officially Candace Owens has had her visa denied because she might incite discord.
Well, there's so many people we shouldn't let into the country for that reason. We should just close our borders just in case. Oh, this guy looked at me funny. He's inciting discord.
So, Mackie, this is the thing, right? What a great argument that happens to be. We don't like what kind of conversations could come about as a result of this person speaking.
Yep. So therefore, we're not going to have them. Thank you.
Oh yeah, but this is only going to make them more powerful, right? Because we'll all watch the YouTube channel instead. So, I think it's connected to this. Now, you tell me if this is the other story, because you tell me if you think it is. And our Senator Jared Rennick, he's one of the independents, and he asked a ton of questions. And I watched a video that he put up today, 4 hours ago it was, and he's interviewing or questioning, or on video is our internet czar. In fact, I should do this. So just to prove what I'm talking about here, there's a YouTube thing of Candace, and here's the one from Senator Jared Rennick, and he's asked the question in one of the Senate inquiries here about will the people have the right to appeal in the new censorship laws that's about to drop.
Good question. Yeah.
And it's a fair question. That's all he asked. He didn't ask anything else. And her response, the internet czar that we have, I'm not sure of her actual title, and apologies to her because I'm just not that up with her title, right? However, she talks a lot in her response about, it's going to be the tech giants who are going to write the code to write the code to enforce the law where you can't say anything as far as mis and disinformation is concerned. this is what she's saying. Well, they're going to write the code that says it. So then she says this really interesting thing, because that'll be the code to detect it, right?
Yeah.
Then she says, well, if you draft the codes right, you'd minimize the creation of that problem, and that problem being appeal.
Okay.
So if
no, look, she's right. If you don't make any mistakes, I mean, logically, that's a fair statement. If you make no mistakes, then yeah, okay, you feel there shouldn't be any appeals, right?
Well, you'd think so. However, you know, on YouTube now, Mickey, you and I know this. You say one word, or because you know I'm coughing and you say a word, and it's not heard, then the AI just determines it, you know, a conflict of their community standards, and then they delete your video, right? And you hit appeal, and it's only a button to appeal. There's no free text entry. You don't go, you know what, just turn the video to private and we'll edit it and put it back up again. And if you want to have a look, you can. There's none of that. It's you just hit the appeal button, and just like either one of those Star Wars robots that go, Roger, Roger, it just, you know, you're under arrest, right? It doesn't determine anything. It doesn't change the outcome. No human looks at it. Suddenly, you're at fault. That's it. So the appeal process. Oh, I think I snorted out my nose the drink I was drinking. I laughed so hard.
See, to me, this whole gambit, just like Robodebt and a couple other schemes, I guess, sounds completely unconstitutional and I would say illegal. Because, I mean, for anything that you do, right, and this is sort of the spirit of the thing, if you will, there must be some kind of recourse. You can't just be guilty because people say you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's now, we've now crossed into Nazi Germany 1942. What? Habeas corpus? Rule of law? What, are you crazy now? Give the men some medicine. If something is amiss, if you do something wrong, I mean, that's why we have laws. That's why we have the judiciary. That's why we have the executive. That's why we have the whole shebang that we have. I mean, if we don't need it, okay, let's do away with it. But I think, you know, for now, I think it's not a bad idea to have that stuff around. But you can't just ignore it. You can't just make a law and say, this person over here, the internet czarina, as it were, is now in charge of, you know, determining what's what. That's insanity. There's not a person alive that is qualified to tell anyone what the truth is. I mean, think about that for a second, Dave. That's complete insanity. Sir, hello? Hello, Dave? Hola.
Even science, Mickey, I was talking with the mute button on. Even science
right.
questions the truth.
Oh, constantly. That's the job of science.
It is. Yes, that's right. They question the truth to see if it stands up, if it still holds to be true, because times change.
100%.
Well,
that is the fundamental purpose of science. Yeah,
it is. But however, not the mis and disinformation. Who determines what is right for, you know, in order for you to be wrong? And how far back in time will this go? Because as we know...
So hang on, are you saying this is retroactive?
No, I'm not. I'm saying at some point you'll say something after the law is put in and the truth might turn in your favour later on. Yeah. But you might be, you know, cancelled or whatever the repercussions of, you know, the non-appeal process are. And then what do you do? How do you become reinstated if you were right in the first place? And so who holds the you know, the single point of truth? In IT we call that the single point of truth. So that is you know, from identity management, for instance, a point of view. there is some place in your network that holds the truth, and everything can query that. You can have displacement or a tree version of it, but there's really a single point of truth, one point. So you can't say, and I think this is really difficult, that you're not allowed to say something or ask a question or not criticize but critique something.
What about make fun of?
Even make fun of. I think that the comedians are worried about this because they won't be able to say anything.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty serious stuff, you know.
Well, this is, and I say this in front of our American friends because they're still enjoying, you know, the First and Second Amendments, and wait until this comes to you. This is absolutely crazy. However, my segue, I'm a segue king for the first 10 minutes after between coughs. I saw a story, Meki, where 2 ballot boxes were set alight in the US. Now, I don't agree with this at all. I think it's awful. And it's not something that anyone should do because it's reckless destruction of property. And also, who's going to know whose ballots were destroyed?
Yeah.
So you could never recover those again. You can't contact the people because they were destroyed. So there's a bunch of missing votes, and you could estimate how many were lost. I don't know. You couldn't divvy them 50-50. You just have to take it on the chin. But it was in a state where I think the Democrats are already they win every year anyway. So what's the point? I don't understand. I just don't get it. Why someone would do it. And there was even, you know, like camera vision of the license plate of the vehicle of the person who did it.
Well, it's funny you should say that because historically speaking, the early voters are Democrats. The Republicans vote on the day. Most of the early votes were cast by Democrats, so those ballot boxes may be Democratic votes, if that happens.
Well, do you know what's really funny? I watch a channel. I don't have a link to it at the moment, but I watch the channel religiously, daily, on where the ballots are currently at. And especially interesting is the amount of early votes are nearly half of the normal votes for those states.
Yeah, it's quite something.
So the early votes are up significantly over the past cycles. They call them cycles, so maybe 8 cycles. There's this big spike this year, and in the states that were red, there was 42% or 50% of their votes counted were also Republican. So it's an extraordinary thing. You're right. Typically, yes, Democrats will get out and vote early, and Republicans, yes, will vote on the day. But there's something about this election that the whole planet is waiting with bated breath and watching this occur in real time like a train wreck.
Yeah, this has been called by a lot of, in fact, every analyst that I've seen, every commentator, every historian, any professor that wishes to say anything. For America, and then I'll talk about the world, but for America, this is the most consequential election since the Civil War. Since the Civil War. So the last 160 years, this is the most consequential election for America and for the world, by extension, as we've discussed many times before, as well, because it does matter from a global perspective who comes into power, because both Trump and Harris have fundamentally different foreign policies and foreign policy agendas. Fundamentally different, okay? I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they're fundamentally different. And a lot of people are looking at what it means for them. There are a lot of European leaders, this is funny, but there are a lot of European leaders that think, we actually prefer Trump, in many ways. So, Trump is A-okay with me, they say. Right, so I think that's really fascinating that there's this split. But then in Asia, it's also split because, as you know, Kamala Harris is of Indian descent as well, right?
Yes.
So Indians are thinking, well, maybe she would be better for us. There's some sympathies. I don't know. I have no idea, right? I don't know enough about her to make a judgment call either way, but everybody is looking at this. And the wars, the current wars, especially the Ukraine war and the, I guess, what do you call it? I guess the current Middle East war, Israel against everybody at the moment, those are the ones that will be most affected. And as you know now, I'm sure, there are North Korean boots on the ground in Russia and the Ukraine. Like, I mean, literally.
I have polls in the decision desk.
I'm thinking, well, North Korea has got the second or third or it's a crazy number, the largest army in the world. Like, it's a massive army, right? Millions of soldiers. And it is like maybe the third or fourth. I can't remember. I'll look it up. But it's a very, very large army. And so they are spending. See, I mean, Russia was running out of people, but now they found
a new resource.
They found a new resource.
It's come online, Mickey.
Yeah, and I guess that the North Koreans would be promised maybe to settle in Russia or something, or be able to emigrate to Russia or something. I mean, what it shows you though is how close North Korea and Russia are in this instance, right? So this is very interesting. But yeah, look, Dave, you're right. Everybody is looking at this election because this is an important election. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's going to be. It doesn't matter who wins. It's going to be a bad day for the world. Okay, it's going to be a bad day.
It'll be a bad day one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to confirm that there. Yeah. Do you know what's really weird? Is I keep talking about this escalation, this gross escalation. People aren't de-escalating anything. In fact, they're making everything worse. Everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Well, NATO, the head of NATO, I saw his story today, footage of him talking about the North Korean troops and saying, this changes everything. So we know from the perspective of the Ukrainians, would you if you're playing sport and they just started getting all these people joining the other team, hang on a minute, what? That's not fair. But it's not sport, it's war, and it's not a gentleman's war as we spoke about the other day. No, it's whatever you can do to win, yeah? So you run out of people, just open up a new vector for people, So done, right? And now NATO's going, hang on, is that even allowed? That can't be good. Why is no one saying this is bad but us? And so we know.
Yeah, I know, right?
You and I know, and I'm sure our audience agree that from NATO's perspective it can't be good, but from Russia's perspective it's go on, I dare you, NATO, go on, just join, put your boots on the ground.
See, the thing is this.
It's taunting them.
But no, see, Europe has no choice now but to act.
That's what I'm saying.
But see, Putin has miscalculated a lot in this war. Mm-hmm. 3 years, hundreds of thousands lost. This miscalculation, it's legendary.
Their level of machinery.
It's legendary. It's incredible. The
every single mistake you can make. Yeah.
Yeah. The bad decisions he has made. The Wagner group, the leadership of the Wagner. I mean, the Wagner group is sort of gone now, right? Mm-hmm. That he was using. They're sort of actually they're in Africa now. To be honest with you, that's
right.
Africa.
Put them down there.
But yeah. So it is to me. It is at this point once the North Koreans, and I don't know how many divisions they're sending, to be honest with you. I don't know. Are we talking 100,000 soldiers, 200,000 soldiers? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is if I have North Korean soldiers in Europe, like literally next to Poland, right, and together with the Russians, and who can say if you can control these North Koreans anyway?
Yeah, that's right.
So you put them on the ground. Are they going to be under Russian command? Are they going to be under joint command? Are they going to be under North Korean command? I don't know.
They think 10,000, Mackie.
Well, that's where it starts. I mean, if 10,000, that's probably 3 or 4 meat waves, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an afternoon.
Right.
So Mackie, all you have to do to distract the North Koreans is, I don't know, helicopter in or parachute in some chocolate, yeah, some I don't know, jelly beans. They've got to be good.
Well, I think it's a little different, but still.
Mars bars, right?
Mars bars, yeah. That's. I love all the leaders. Just want to say here, I'm not with Dave on this one.
He's cut me free.
You're floating, buddy. You're floating.
That's it.
The string has been detached. No, look.
I'm in the deep end now.
North Korea is a formidable enemy. That's the reason it is still there. You see.
Uh-huh.
If they weren't, they wouldn't be. But they are, so they are. Same with Vietnam. And Afghanistan, for that matter, right? Afghanistan, and North Korea, and Vietnam, they have not been conquered for various reasons. Just too hard, really, especially Afghanistan. But it really is because right now, then, see, if you've got these foreign troops now, the North Korean troops involved, then in NATO. Now, first of all, NATO is going to go brilliant. The Americans are going brilliant. Why? Because now we can test our weapons against the North Koreans. That's fantastic. So we've got a free weapons test against the Russians, and now they're getting a free weapons test against the North Koreans. This is brilliant, right? So of course they're going to pour more money, and depending on who wins the election, of course, right? And actually, it won't be until next year, January, that the government actually changes. So you've got another 3 months or so.
That's right.
Ukrainian military aid, etc., etc. And if I were Biden, because he's still president until then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's make no mistake here. Biden is still president.
What day is it, Mackie?
January 6th, is it?
That's right.
I don't think any of us will ever forget that it's January 6th now. So see, it's always good for history lessons. Just have an insurrection to remember a date. Have an insurrection.
Powerful as it is, that's right.
It's the Halloween insurrection. Yeah, that's right. October 31st. No, but so if I were him, right, and there was a chance that Trump could take the election in my mind, right? If I were Biden, I would go, geez, I'm gonna pump as much money into the Ukraine as I can. I'm gonna rally the NATO troops. I'm gonna strengthen our borders. I would put I would put large chunks of the military on the borders, Poland, Scandinavia, all those borders.
Mm-hmm.
I would fortify, I would put boats in the water, I would do all kinds of things, right? To make sure it doesn't spill into Europe, because it might. And why wouldn't it? Why would you stop there at this point? Especially with the instability in the Middle East. And you've seen already Turkey taking advantage of it, attacking targets in Iran and what was it, Syria and Iraq?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the PKK targets. Other nations are looking at. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there were clashes in Kashmir as well between Pakistan and India, right? So it's sort of hotting up where people are taking advantage.
Sort of hotting up.
It's sort of hot. It's not hot yet. It's not hot yet.
No. It's hot if you live in those places. It's hot.
Oh well.
From our perspective, yeah, it's barely lukewarm. I wouldn't even put my toe in it yet.
Is it a thing? Is it a thing? No, look, it is a thing, and certainly it's. I mean, Africa is a mess anyway. So I think we can all acknowledge that. But yeah, Dave, it's certainly turning rather ugly. But there is some good news.
Oh, do share this good news.
Yeah. So in fact, this is just published. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just bring it up. Well, yeah, here we are. This came in 10 hours ago. and ask you. We know we've always been talking. This is complete change of direction, by the way.
No,
complete,
don't.
A menacing
Really?
sight over Sydney.
complete change of direction. We've always been talking about South America and Mesoamerica being under investigated from an archaeological point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know this now. We know the geoglyphs of the Amazon, the cities that are being detected with LiDAR. It just doesn't stop. What they found now, and this is funny, a PhD student finds a lost city in Mexico, in the Mexico's jungle, by accident. By accident. Okay? It was completely unknown about, and it is about the size of Edinburgh, Scotland's Edinburgh.
Wow.
Yeah, not small. Yeah, and in fact, he went on Google Maps, and then he just looked at it and, oh, this is interesting. And then there was a LiDAR survey, and it looks like it was populated by 30 to 50,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Some 1,500 years ago, and it's massive. It's there's like it covers 16.6 square kilometers, and there's a couple of plazas with pyramids. So this is not a small place, and altogether in the three sites that make up the size of Edinburgh, they found 6,500 buildings of various sizes.
Wow.
So yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is not some tiny little place that just was completely overlooked because it's so small. Now imagine how much more stuff there is. And you remember how we always talk about it's always coincidental when they make these big discoveries, etc., etc.
Oh yeah, you think that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, for the most part anyway. And I just finished watching Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse Season 2, which entirely takes place in America. And it's fascinating stuff. And I agree with most of the things that he puts forward. I've been interested in this probably longer than him, but he certainly had the resources to do all the research and go places and and such to make it all happen for himself. So because he actually started as a journalist for the BBC, I don't know if you know that, and he was covering Africa, and he actually ran into Michael Palin in Africa while Michael Palin was shooting one of his travel series, and he talked about ancient civilizations back in the 90s to Michael Palin on Michael Palin's show. Just it's like a small world, really, if you think about it. This was before he published any books or anything. So yeah, so Graham Hancock had a background in journalism. Like he was a serious journalist. He's not a fool, and he's extremely well read and well spoken. So I'm really glad that he's kind of the spokesman for this kind of information, if you will. Which brings me to another thing, and it's sort of like a little bit of advertising for The Shiny Side Out.
Oh, good.
I have completed. I'm going to lie to you now. I don't want to lie to you. I want to tell you the truth. I think we've got 76 pages of show notes now. And there'll probably be more, to be honest, for the show. And we're going to talk about, on Sunday, we're talking about human experimentation, illegal medical experimentation conducted by governments, etc., etc. And if you think that the Nazis were bad, I thought the Nazis were bad. And they were bad. But by golly,
there's worse. Yeah.
It's incredible. But look, I think we can safely say that this is going to be a show cycle that will last a while, because there's probably going to be more material we can uncover. But let me ask you this, Dave. In your doings and goings and comings and whatnot, and your conversations with your friends, what is on their mind? I'm really curious. What are the issues that are on people's minds? Because I'm not very good at talking to people about things. I'm not very good at small talk. Really, I'm not. And I'm just curious what people talk about these days. What is on the collective psyche that you come across? Because I know you're better at it. Because I saw you in action. Dave and I had lunch, right, in Parramatta, and just sitting on the table. There was a table next to us. It was a fairly crowded place, but Dave just starts talking to these people next to us in a friendly manner, and they respond. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I mean, I was not thinking about talking to them. I had very different thoughts about. Usually, when I'm in crowds, I have very different thoughts about the crowds I'm in, and usually it's about not being in the crowd and not having any more crowds. But they were very friendly. So
being somewhere else other than in the crowd, yes.
And yeah, so
I once was like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was once not like that. but life taught me well. No, but seriously, what do people talk about or concern themselves?
It's funny because at the moment, it's left versus right is the biggest thing.
Right.
People hate on EVs, which is really funny, and I've got a quick one for that as well.
Okay.
Some things that came up today in conversation was the Black Hawk helicopters, both in Australia and in the US.
Oh, really?
For counter-terror exercises, and this is over New South Wales. They're showing off their prowess with these Black Hawks, right?
Okay.
The global wars that are occurring, the wars all around the world and how it keeps escalating. One of my friends rings me up and goes, "How are your mates in Iran?" I'm not Iranian, but when he first said to me, "So, what's Iran going to do?" And I go, "Well, they're going to allocate a team. They're going to build a team to respond, and then, you've got to get the resources in place, schedule them, and that takes weeks. You need a PM to run it. You need everything in place. You need an architect to have designed the battle plans, right? And all of this stuff." And I said, "Hey, 6 weeks. 6 weeks to the day it occurred." And I was bang on, right? And there they are. There's all those missiles, however many word ballistic missiles, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? But today there was, I think, 2 journalists in an unadvertised strike position were killed from an Israeli rocket or ballistic missile, I think it was. And Israel does tell everyone that they're going to hit a certain location, i.e. the footage we have of that one missile drop and that whole building come down. There was a group of nearly 100 people filming the building because they knew it was going to get hit. 100 different versions of the same footage. So, anyway, the what are they talking about? There's an interest right now to prepping, and while everything else, I remind them, is a distraction, and they have to think about that for a minute and go, no, right? And there's an argument. Well, so they disagree, and I go, well, that's okay. Tell me when you've come around. So, because they don't see any of the news that we see. They're only watching the dedicated maybe Channel 9,
right.
Channel 10, Channel 7, or ABC News. They don't hear anything else other than that, and it's only a very small canvas with only a few items on it, and that's it. But we see a much broader view. We have links to those because there are other things occurring, and suddenly you've got like a conspiracy theorist map with all the images and the thread between them, right? It all starts to make sense. And when I was thinking about the Candace Owen banning, all I could say was, well, our government's left-leaning. That's one way of putting it. And the American government is left-leaning. I know they're slightly different. They're out of phase, but still left. So they work hand in glove. And they've gone, oh, Candace is going to come over here. Is that all right? Oh, I wouldn't let her in. Why not? Well, we've got freedom of speech, but you don't. I wouldn't let her talk. She's against our government. She's against the potential candidate or the potential new president. So don't let her in. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I think it's shocking. Remember, Mekki, when we first started, and we talked about the soapbox lane or whatever it was called in Hyde Park,
Yeah, of
Anyone
course.
could walk up there with a soapbox and stand on it
Yep.
and just blurt out whatever they wanted, and that was
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah.
Now, because of the all-pervasive, the likelihood of you walking past someone blurting some rubbish out, standing on a soapbox, to you it would be rubbish if you were, home, shops and work triangle and just want to get about your day, where you think there's a kook standing there. I mean, it could have been Alex Jones, but it wasn't. Saying all these things, and throughout history there's always someone who's connecting the dots and standing there and talking. Do you walk away knowing that? No, you just think that they're crazy. So the all-pervasive social media, I don't think is... I think they've realised that it's something that needs to be controlled and doing everything they can to control it. Elon Musk and the Trump interview together, they had a little sit-down chat, and Elon Musk says, I wonder how many life sentences I'm going to get consecutively if Kamala Harris wins. And he's laughing, and Trump laughs, and Trump's, here that's where he comes up with that I should make you the head of efficiency in my new parliament, like in my new presidential position, make you, because look, your offices, your factories are so efficient, and look at the things you're doing. It's fantastic. So I hand it to you in a sec. So I spoke to a friend of mine today, and we were commenting on the only true person on the planet right now who is innovating the dickens out of it is Elon Musk. And I don't care if you love him or hate him, it doesn't really matter. The biggest wins we've had, biggest rocket, tallest rocket, most powerful rocket, catching it in chopsticks, right? Crazy. No one could do it. Certainly the government, the US government couldn't do it. They couldn't. They had to splash down parts of it, crash other bits. They didn't care. We'd invented the, let's call it, bottom landing spaceship or rocket back in the 40s before we knew about it. The old sci-fis, all the rockets used to land the way they took off. We never made them, of course, too hard. But this is where it's at. And we think about the technology that we've got today and where we're going, and this is my last segue. In England, there is a new tax coming to EVs. And it's because there was a honeymoon period for EVs in England, for instance, and everywhere else in the world, where there was not going to be a vehicle tax, for instance, on them. But because they weigh another 1,000 pounds than any other vehicle, like it's just for the same size because of the batteries, then I've got a letter up there on the screen that a lady had received in England. It basically says that you will need to pay a vehicle tax in the same way as existing drivers of petrol and diesel vehicles. Right? That's pretty much what they're going to do, and it starts at April 1st, 2025. Now, you don't think that's very much, but remember the incentives to get them. You don't have to pay any tolls, you don't have to pay any tax, all that goes out the window. And will it make the electric vehicle an unrealistic purchase? And I say yes. I don't think anyone at the moment has the money to buy a new vehicle. Certainly in Australia, everything's imported, right? So, and I'm really dark on that. The government should have kept spending $700 million a year annually to prop up our automotive industry. They should have done it, and we'd still be in a good place.
Yeah, Yeah, but it should have happened, but really it didn't.
Well, the government of the day decided, no, we're not going to do that anymore, and then wound up our manufacturing. So
we need to talk about, and we'll do this on Thursday, I think. I'll put some research into it, so we can look forward for everybody. We need to talk about the competition for electricity and water that's coming our way.
That's coming, yeah.
In a very serious way, and yeah, just bear with us. We'll put the research in. It's because it's scary. It's a bit scary. It's because it's not good. That's what's happening. And
so Broken Hill is still running on generator power.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And that's a sign of the times. I think there's more to come in that space. I really believe that we've only seen the beginning of our electricity problems. We're nowhere near the end yet. It's going to get much worse.
So
in many ways.
EVs require charging, so do e-bikes and so do e-scooters. And today, the New South Wales government said that they're going to legalise e-scooters in New South Wales. That's the state Mick and I live in here.
Yeah.
It's about Texas size or a bit bigger. And just for scale, what they say is you'd probably use that less than your car for short trips. You go to the station, your train station, catch the electric train and get off and then ride your e-scooter to your workplace. In a dream world, that's probably fine.
Mm.
However, I'm going to put $5 on this, and that is, I'll bet Mecky $5. He probably won't accept the bet anyway, because it's a likelihood. But the cost of the e-scooter, or e-scooter, is going to determine the majority of them, like VHS and Beta. You can spend $5,200, or you can spend $500, and the cheaper ones will probably catch fire. It's probably 1 in 100 will catch fire, or something like that. Melbourne, Victoria, has banned e-scooters entirely. You can't buy them or ride them. So, and the $5,000 one will do 120 kilometers an hour.
Yeah,
it's
that's
unnecessary,
not safe.
Clearly. It's insane.
Yeah.
But there's been massive deaths and stuff and injuries and car accidents and in Melbourne, and they've realised the device itself is harmless if you ride it responsibly. But responsibly isn't the way that they're being ridden. So yeah. When I was in Melbourne, you couldn't hear them coming.
Wow.
You're walking on a shared, for the Americans, sidewalk. We call them footpaths. So you're walking on a shared one of those, and you can't hear it, and they'll just zoom past you, and you get a jump scare because you didn't hear them.
Mm.
So look, I think we're going to see injuries go up, more house fires, and caused by the e products. So that's my 2 cents, Mackie.
And look, I think that's true. But the thing is, I honestly believe that the only way to meet our electricity demands, right, we only have really, there's one way, and then which is less likely, and there's another way which is more likely. Then there's a way that's complete fantasy at this point. One is we go to fusion. We discover cold fusion ideally, and we make that viable. That's one way to provide enough electricity. The other is nuclear. That's the most realistic one.
Yes.
A lot of people don't like that, and fair enough too.
Pink uranium, people. That's what we need.
Oh, well, yeah. And so that's going to be a thing. And then we also have to look at the more exotic forms of energy production, let's call it. Things like 0-point energy, things like that, where I think at some point disclosure will happen, and we'll have 0-point energy. It'll just pop up. There it is. Oh look, because there's no other way. Yeah, there's no other way to produce this kind of energy. We just can't make enough. And already data centers account for small nations. The energy consumption of small nations.
Consumption, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And that's just so there are two things that are driving this. One is AI, in a big way, right? And ChatGPT and all that wonderful stuff.
See, we're worried about Bitcoin mining using so much power.
That's the other one. Cryptocurrency. Those are the two. Cryptocurrency and AI. But AI is now way outpacing crypto. I mean, it's not even a contest anymore. Oh, crypto, I laugh at you. Look at my consumption. It's insane. It really is.
Yeah, so I lean immediately to pink uranium, which is a ceramic coated ball of a radioactive material, and the ceramic coating is so thick that even if you put them into a pile, they can't go into thermal overrun. So, which is good. That's what you want, and they get to only about 700 degrees. That's the limitation. So that's enough to run a mining plant, right? For a mine, it's enough. It can produce enough power for that, and they're about just larger than container size, like maybe 4 80-foot containers, and that's about it. That's about how big they are, and they can run a small suburb or a mine, and that's why they're really good to be everywhere. And this is part of the argument against nuclear in Australia is what people remember as was a 3 Mile Island and Fukushima, and they remember all these, Chernobyl. Remember these bad times with the bad tech? Chernobyl was meant to be shut down prior to that anyway. So, and what about CH4? I talk about this a bit, but that also can be you can just make natural gas out of the air. So you think about what we could do, and then 0 point. I love it. So just making it magically out of thin air, like it just doesn't exist. It's just an energy source. It's like putting an aerial up and hearing radio waves. You put it the right kind of aerial up or receiver, and you can start producing power.
Yeah. And you know what? We might even see, the funny thing is this, when we look at ancient civilizations, I know we don't have time to go into it, but I strongly believe that the civilization prior to us, I would say, 20, 25,000, 30, 35,000 years ago, whenever they were around, but it came to an end in the Younger Dryas event, when we had this massive flooding and such. They were using piezoelectric energy. I'm convinced of it, and possibly other forms of energy we haven't really quite discovered, but piezoelectric for sure, because there's way too much quartz in the and granite, for that matter, in all the monuments that were constructed, and they're way too much like power plants. And in fact, if you look at them from that point of view, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to see them in that way. The civilization that went before us, there were many before us, but they went a completely different way. Didn't dig up any coal and didn't drill for oil. Because they wanted electricity. Because we want electricity. That's what we want. Electricity, right? That's what we want. And we get it by burning coal and oil and gas. And they just went, no, we just make it directly with piezoelectric effect. Okay, that's much better. Thank you very much.
There's a piezoelectric footpath that they've just created that lights up the way as you go.
How good is that?
All you do is squeeze a crystal, and when you release it creates electricity. That's what you get in the lighters, in the ones you want to light a barbecue with. 100%. That's what that is.
The kicker is this can be done on a large scale. You can power entire cities just by people walking around.
Yeah, that's right.
Insanity. Hey, look, this has been Plato's Cave. Thank you so much for listening. Don't go anywhere. Something else coming up. Actually, I might want to say it's Mitchell Bubb is coming up, but I could be wrong. So stick around and don't go anywhere. And thank you so much. But most of all,
be safe.